Okay.
All right. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Trish. We're just going to dive right in. I'm not even going to introduce you. You've been on the podcast.
They don't even know who we are.
No, I'm just kidding. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while. My last person that was on the podcast was a representative District 33, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
John Talley. This is his counterpart. She is of the Stillwater proper area, District 34, Trish Ranson.
Hi there.
And she's running for re-election, so that's
always running for re-election.
It's every 2 years, right?
Yes,
yeah. So you're always running for re-election, definitely. I actually tried to look up videos of you on not Facebook, but on YouTube.
Yes.
And
what did you find? Did you find some
I found
children's songs?
No, you and John.
Actually, okay, well this is good.
I found you and John. I don't know if YouTube will dock me for playing it, so I won't play it. But you and John were doing...
Was that back 3 years ago, it said? Okay.
Got 17 views, more than what my podcast gets.
Well, that was Rotary. So that was probably Rotary members that were not able to be there that week.
What is Rotary?
Rotary is it's the club. It's the lunch club.
Kind of like an Elks Club kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Gotcha.
like Kiwanis and that kind of thing. And they do civic things, like they volunteer in the community and so forth. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see you've done other podcasts and interviews as well.
Look at that.
Who is this?
Is that Green Corn or?
Green Corn Rebellion Show.
Yes. Yeah, he ran for office in Shawnee a couple of times, and so
as a Democrat, I assume,
yes,
right? Yep.
Yes, and so it was wild because our conversations were about politics and heavy metal.
Really? Are you a heavy metal fan?
Nope. I have no idea anything about heavy metal, but hey, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
What kind of music are you into? Let's just get into that real quick.
Oh, let's see. If I had to, I like all kinds, honestly. But bluegrass is pretty much top because I go to the Bluegrass Festival in Winfield every year.
I would say my genre would be probably Red Dirt.
Oh, yeah.
And here in April, if you live in the Stillwater area or the surrounding area, you can't get room. So I'm selling spots in my backyard for $250 per tent spot. Bring your own tents, set up in my backyard, $250 per spot. We can fit about 10 people, maybe 20. There'll be a fire pit in the middle. It'll be great. Contact me. It's a way big, fast. People are already talking about, like, I had a friend that used to live here, and he sold his house, and he's like, I'm getting tickets, and I'm going to kick the people that bought my house out.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
It's like, listen, you live in Wisconsin now, man. I get that,
right.
Squatter rights are a little different up there, but here in Oklahoma,
right,
it's like 7 to 10 years before you can even do squatter rights. We made it like basically impossible here in the state of Oklahoma, which I love.
Which is interesting because that's how our country or how our state got formed was squatter rights.
The Sooner State, yeah, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. But, if he does that, I mean, he does have a place to stay. It'll just be, Payne County Jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your choice, man, if you watch this. Just saying.
Really.
Not fun.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Back to that. Let me pull out my phone because I told you before we even started, I had ChatGPT do some questions. And just because we're in the generation of AI,
yes.
Before I even start asking you questions from the AI, what are your opinions on AI? Where do you think it will go? Are you for it? Are you against it? What are your opinions?
Well, I think like ChatGPT, that type of AI, I think it's a really great tool. But it needs to be utilized as a tool rather than a be-all, end-all. So I think we've got to use it in a way that we're still using our critical thinking skills.
Okay.
I've used ChatGPT as well, as far as, I had to teach a lesson at Sanger Ridge to second graders about voting. And I just put in the parameters and, like, what would be a second grade as appropriate lesson. And it came back with a really good structure of the lesson. But then it was like, okay, I'm trained to be a teacher. So then it was like, okay, well, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to swap this out. I'm going to change it this way. And made it my own, but it did create that construct that I could actually work from. I think, being a Gen X person, and the Terminator, that always makes me a little nervous.
Did you see?
Are we going that way?
Did you see Elon's release and everything?
No.
Okay. Real quick. Also, do you want a drink of water?
No, I'm good.
Are you okay? I was gonna say there's water in that mini fridge if you want a drink or if you also want a drink.
That's good.
You haven't seen this. Okay, we'll go down here. Go back.
So is he creating something that's? I should just let you look at it rather than ask you questions while you're doing it.
So this is.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Optimus robots.
Yep. It's a little scary because it reminds me. Have you ever seen the movie I, Robot?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yes. Uh-huh.
This is where it's kind of going, more or less.
Yeah.
And he did say it's going to be, once they're in mass production, it's going to be...
Optimus robots will walk among you.
Interesting.
Please be nice to the Optimus robots.
They're supposed to, $20,000 to $30,000.
Goodness gracious, that's a car.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
But that's still like... And then he released the taxi.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
It's the self-driving...
Right.
There's no steering wheel. You have no brakes.
I've seen these. I mean, not this type, but like there is like the autonomous taxis in other cities.
We have Canoe, right, here in Oklahoma.
We do, but they're not fully up and running.
Really?
Yeah, they're still struggling.
What's making them struggle? Do you know at all?
They're commercial vehicles. They're not necessarily like you and I would purchase them. So I believe the Postal Service and Walmart delivery and so forth, and so they're being used for that. But I had a friend who traveled to Arizona, I think it was, and they got a cab. And it was an autonomous cab. And they basically got in. There was no driver. Put in the date where they wanted to go, the address, and took them away. I was like, man, that would make me a little nervous.
It makes me nervous, just period.
Right. But then, I mean, afterwards, they said it was a really good experience. I mean, it was safe. And, I mean, there's so many sensors on the autonomous vehicles.
True.
That they're actually purported to be safer than human drivers, just in the sense that they've got
except for the issues with San Francisco.
Which one of that?
I guess I can't remember what company it was, but they had giant issues in San Francisco that cars would just stop in the intersections, or if you like get into a crowded parking lot, it can't register anything,
right,
and it just freezes up and stays put. So
okay.
It had weird issues. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look it up myself. Mm-hmm. But this was a while back, and also I listened to it on Joe Rogan. So what can I say? Obviously.
Take it all with a grain of salt.
Right. With that, let's do campaign re-elections.
Yes.
As you run for a re-election, what motivates you to continue serving District 34, and what do you hope to accomplish in your next term?
Okay. So, I believe we are an education community, first and foremost, with OSU, Career Tech, Stillwater High School, or public school, excuse me. We have an educated constituency. So I believe that Stillwater needs an educated representation at the Capitol. So that is my place that I fill. And I've been the representative for 6 years. I've done a great job. I've made friends across the aisle. I've been able to influence things as well as push back against other things. And I think that is important for Stillwater to have that type of representation and that type of pull, if you will, with the state legislature. And so I'm continuing to want to continue doing what I've done in the last 6 years, also pushing forward. We definitely need to push in the arena of public education. We've done bits and spurts of funding for public ed, and in the last couple of years we've diverted funds to private ed through the voucher system, which I think is only going to cause us to be two different classes: those who can afford to educate their children and those who can't. And so we need to make sure that we are really looking at the whole child and not deciding whether or not they can afford to be educated, because our future workforce doesn't care.
Right.
We need a workforce that can be ready to go.
Did you see, was it Stillwater Public Schools, or was it just the state of Oklahoma is now pushing for a project where kids are going to learn or focus more on like more blue collar or more work related?
Well, that is the push lately, just overall from the state chamber.
Shouldn't we learn how to do taxes in school? Like, I didn't really learn about taxes in school. You know what I mean? So like, when I heard about taxes, I didn't. My mom does my taxes. Right. You know, like
it's an applicable skill. That's the word. If you don't know have any way of how to approach it, you don't have any experience in it, you're not going to learn it because it doesn't make any sense to you. And so I would agree we need to as well. We need education should be educating our future citizens.
Right.
It should be focused on not only just workforce, but quality of life. And how do we make so that Oklahomans can advance? How do we make it to where Oklahoma advances? Because we're at the bottom of the list.
Right, but I also don't want, because we're at the bottom, this sounds interesting. This is going to be interesting how I word it. Because we're at the bottom, I feel like more students would be more willing to go into the workforce than trying to go into college. I think college, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And just who I've seen, who I associate myself with, a lot of them haven't gotten to college, and they're comedians, podcasters, or, radio, all that kind of stuff. They're successful people still. So like, I figure like we should be at the point where public schools should also be educating students on the fact that you can also just from a high school diploma, you can get a good working job as well, instead of having to, have the pressure of going to college as well.
Right.
Because my parents pressured me to go, well, not my mom, but my dad definitely pressured me to go to college, and I flunked out. So, and it didn't work, and here I am. In my garage interviewing.
Well, and you make it work because you have to make it work.
Yes.
And I think that you're right. I mean, we should be able to allow students to go forward to where their interests are and where they want to be. College in my generation was, it was a way of making sure that I could earn a living wage.
Yep.
And
we come from two different generations.
We
so
do.
I don't think college is the same as it was when you were in school or when you were going to college.
Absolutely not, because just the way we fund it. I mean, when I went to college, it was 80% subsidized by the government. And right now, my son graduated 2 years ago, it was subsidized 20%. So it's even less now. And so that's why we're seeing so many loans
but
that students are taking out. But the student payments
have gone up.
Oh, absolutely.
So then why is the government not paying as much towards
because
the
it
universities?
costs a lot of money.
But why has it? So hold on. So let's go back and talk about this. Maybe even before your generation, probably baby boomers. They were able to afford a house, a one income salary, 4 household. Daughter, son, mother, father, and the father only had to work. And I've looked at kind of like the interest rate on everything, like housing and market, job market, everything has gone up.
Correct.
But payment or income hasn't moved whatsoever. And I'm not talking about minimum wage either. I get minimum wage. Honestly, I'd be okay with minimum wage going up a little bit, but it can't be too much like California, where they're going to push it to like, is it 27?
Well, and it needs to be incremental. It can't just be all at once. Otherwise, the whole system will crash down.
And I think Florida is pushing like $15 for minimum wage, but it's over a 3 to 4 year kind of deal. Florida or California, I think, is the next year or so plans on just going $27.99.
Wow.
per hour for minimum
You
wage.
know,
And
California
that
is
means
so big, they're like another country, quite honestly.
the same with Texas.
Yeah.
But the problem with California is a lot of companies are going to move out because they're not going to want to pay the minimum wage of $27.99. Like I know the In-N-Out owner, she's talked about leaving California altogether where In-N-Out started, which is crazy to think that there wouldn't be an In-N-Out in California, but she's talked about she can't afford, 16, 17-year-olds and paying them $27.99 for, and she said then their hours are going to be cut.
Right.
I mean, it's just an economical thing. And don't get me wrong, I get people are hurting as well. I just like the idea of moving it slower into a process. And I don't even know if $27.99 is necessarily a good idea. I would cut it at probably $15, like Florida is doing as a minimum wage, because then anything else is, you can just go up from there. You know what I mean? There's no going down. I mean, it's illegal to go down from there,
Well, if you think about it, like you said about the boomer generation, my parents, I grew up in a household, 4 kids. I was the youngest. My dad was a machinist. He worked. My mother didn't. Right. And we had 1 car, and we somehow were able to take vacation as well. But at that time, you also had union. You also had taxes that we pay that paid for a lot of things that helped subsidize.
You also had war as well, funding everything as well too.
Yes, and so now we don't have those things, and that was another part of the whole higher ed funding. We don't have the taxes that are going to that. We're not supporting the university institutions, and to the point now we're changing them into workforce development sites, which that is not necessarily what universities need to be. Universities need to be places of thought where we actually work. It's like, how do we work within the larger global economy? And
I agree with that, but also I do think we should do more of a workforce as well. I don't think there's enough workforce kind of schools out there. We have Meridian Tech here. We also, is it Oilton that has one?
Yeah, there's a career tech system all the way across the state.
Yeah, we have multiple career tech schools, but I just feel like it's not like enough.
But if you're not going to go, the great thing about career tech is that they have okay, we're going to give these type of job experiences for you because they make a living wage. And if they don't make a living wage, they don't offer them.
Right. I get that. I get that. But I guess everything is on a small scale, if that makes any sense. Meridian's not a huge campus. It's a good sized campus, but it's not a huge campus. So I don't know. Is there a tech school that is the size of a actual university? Okmulgee, Oklahoma State Institute. Yeah, I guess so. I just answered my own question. I don't know.
But you're talking.
But they're part of Oklahoma State University as
well.
They're
part of the system.
They're part of the system. I was trying to just completely take it out of the system.
But career techs are built to where
they're part of the system technically, aren't they?
They're their own system.
Really?
Yes. Okay. And they are in communities where it is easy for access and so forth. So they're peppered all the way through Oklahoma because of that. And
do they get government funding as well, though?
Yep, they get federal government funding. They get state funding, and they also get property tax part of for their funding, and it's built on the fact that if you need a skill or you need to upskill, that you can travel there, you can be there. If you work during the day, you can work at night, you can do school at night, and they're very flexible, and that's, I think, one of their greatest strengths is that they can meet people where they need to be. Universities, because we have the funding has been dwindling over the years, universities like OSU, they focus on the 18 to 22-year-olds. So our non-traditional students aren't necessarily a high focus because it doesn't work that way, and you have to have night classes. Well, then that means you have to pay more for your faculty to be at night and so forth. Yeah, it's been, it was a business decision many years ago, and I understand it. But at the same time, I think we're missing the mark on a lot of people who need that next certificate, that next step. Yeah,
absolutely. I get what you mean. Going back to the AI questions.
Yes.
What has your platform, how has your platform evolved since your last election, and what new issues or challenges are you focused on this time around?
So my 3 issues have been, in 2018, my 3 issues were public education funding, access to health care, and that's affordable, and then food insecurity. Because food insecurity was a big issue that I saw.
We just got
going
a
in.
grocery tax cut, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And what I realized after that is that food insecurity is a symptom of something else greater, and that is economic as well, and so forth. So it is still a big, huge focus of mine. I try to volunteer weekly for mobile meals, which is delivering of meals and Friday's my day. And I absolutely love that because it's something that I can actually do with my time to help someone. Like, it's very tangible. But I've changed my third one from last election and this election to equal opportunity, because what I'm seeing is that our Republican supermajority legislature is pushing more and more this myth that Oklahomans look and worship the same. And we have 4 million Oklahomans from very diverse populations, backgrounds, religions, and so forth. And I think what we end up doing in that regard is that we start to eliminate, or we start to exclude people. And people are here. We need to represent them no matter who they are and how they live, how they worship.
Last time I talked to you, we had 4 Democrats in the House, I believe.
No, we have 20.
Last time I talked to you, though, we
had 18.
Okay.
I think, yes. So we've got 20 now. We're
I
hoping
thought
for
we had a really
24.
low number of Democrats at one point.
It is a very low number still. Okay. We have 101 representatives in the House.
Okay, I got you.
So, yeah. But it's one of those things where, that is an issue for me, because if we're not attending to the issues for the folks who are in the margins, we're really not moving the needle for anyone going forward. Because then we're just basically like, okay, well, you have, so we're going to help you. You have not, we're not going to help you. And I don't believe that is what we should be doing. Going forward, excuse me, the issue of childcare and accessibility and affordability of childcare is something that has been this last couple of years have been on my radar and will continue to be. We had a lot of federal funds come down during the pandemic to help subsidize our childcare. We have a business model that doesn't work, because we went to universal pre-K several years ago, and that takes all the 4-year-olds out of childcare and into the public school system. It's great for kids. However, it's not great for the child care facilities. It's more in labor costs, and the wage for the workforce in child cares is not a living wage. And so we've got an issue there. So workforce is a problem, but also how we can make payroll for our child cares because of our subsidy reimbursement that they get for our low income families.
Would Oklahoma consider Optimus the Tesla robot
I
for
doubt it.
the workforces?
I doubt it.
And child care and such.
Child care is one of those things that needs a human touch.
No, yeah,
it really
absolutely.
does. But
also, I think children would just destroy them.
Yeah, probably.
Like they're just toys, bang on them, all
Yes.
that. And I don't think they're supposed to be banged on.
No. But, the subsidy, the federal dollars ended last month, and we have to decide as a state, do we value child care? Do we value the early childhood ages to where we are going to step in and help fill the gap? And that's the big question. And so that's my big push, is to how do we fix the business model for childcare? How do we make sure that childcare is affordable and accessible? How do we address the low pay of our workforce in the childcare realm? And how do we go forward to where they are now ready? Those students are going to be ready for school when it comes time.
Okay. Here's a side question, because I was waiting on this question, and you're still a resident of Stillwater, obviously. You have to be a resident of Stillwater to run for your office. But have you heard about this data center that is supposed to go in? What are your opinions on this data center? Good, bad? What are the pros, cons to it, I guess, because everything I've read on it, no one really knew anything about it, and the city just kind of forced it, and now they're having a vote on whether OG&E powers it, or is it the city of Stillwater Electric is going to power it. One of the two, I think. And the mayor has said that either one has the infrastructure to, supply the data center, but the citizens didn't even know about it in the first place. So I'm just interested in your opinion as a citizen, maybe not even as a representative, just as a citizen.
Well,
what is a data? It's to my understanding, it's supposed to help produce jobs, obviously, but also it helps with education, the infrastructure. That's all I got, those three things.
Well, you've got a general view of it, so that's great. A data center is something that basically it's a big, huge building with a lot of computers, and it just processes data. And that helps with the internet and the Internet of Things and all of that kind of stuff. So it is something that is needed as far as our technology advances. It has been a deal that has been in the works for at least 6 years.
Okay.
It first started under when Mary Fallon was governor, so probably maybe 6-7 years, because Stitt came in at 6 years ago.
So Mayor Noble, would that be Mayor Noble?
Possibly. I don't know who was mayor.
Does it matter who was mayor?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I didn't know that.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
But
so the mayor didn't have anything to do with it in the first place.
No, and I think, as far as...
How is that possible? How, it's going north of in city limits, so doesn't the city have say against the state?
Well, the land was trying to think of what the term is, but it is land that's owned by the state.
Okay.
And so
eminent domain or...
No, it's not eminent domain. I mean, we have land that is owned by the state all around the state of
wildlife
Oklahoma.
management area, all
and
that kind
taxes
of stuff,
and all of that is put on towards funding education. Okay, so there's this land in northeast Stillwater
right,
that fits this bill, and was
it's going to be over by Armstrong and all that,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
North of that, and the company coming in, and there has been, I mean, as is all deals, non-disclosure. So it's rumored that it's Google, but it's never been reported that it's Google, because the people that are in the room can't say if it's Google or not.
I've heard bad reviews on Google, because is it Piedmont or Pryor had a data center put in, and they're suffering, is what I've heard from other people that have commented on.
How are they suffering?
Pollution. That's all I've read. I need to read.
Okay.
I just started reading this weekend, so I need to dive deeper into it.
Definitely get into more information, because there is water.
Is there going to be noise
used.
Pollution, water pollution?
So let's talk
because
about
someone
that.
talked about white noise going on with this center, but also if it's going out by Armstrong and what's the copper building over there? I mean, they're already making noise regardless. I mean, what's another? In my opinion, I guess what's another? But my also other concern is rolling blackouts. Okay, are we going to have issues?
Let's talk about that. All right, so we're going to have noise pollution. So because it has been in the works for 6 years, they're already planning as to where they're going to put the site so that it is insulated. It's going to be built insulated. Then it's also going to be insulated as the center part of the land, so that way it's the furthest away from anything.
So we're not even going to see it, probably.
It is also going to be surrounded by trees and the landscape. So all of that's still going to be there. You're not even going to... Most people are not even going to know where it is, because they're not going to be able to see it.
We already have one here, if I'm correct.
No. We don't have a data center.
We don't have. Someone said we already have a data center and we didn't even know about it. Okay.
No. And so let's talk about water. So water is used for cooling. But water, we have ample water source for both actually for the first phase, and if they were to expand to the second phase, we still have ample water.
Where's this water coming from?
From our water source.
Is it Boomer?
Call Lake.
We
have a straw, basically a pipeline that goes right up to Call Lake. If they should decide that they're going to expand, then getting more water is on them, and they have to pay for it. This is hundreds of millions of dollars to get a new pipeline. So they have to pay for it, and that's a good thing for Stillwater. because then Stillwater doesn't have to pay for it. And that's one of the things we
And
tried
if
to
they
get
ever-
government funds during COVID to pay for reinforcing it. And so
If just, hypothetically, if they ever left town, what would happen to that water line? Would we be able to expand it into town and use it ourselves? Or
if this is a lot of ifs.
yeah, right.
If,
Like
if
they had to pay
expand,
for it.
They paid for it. It would still be ours.
Really?
And that's part of the contract.
So they wouldn't have to dig it up, and they wouldn't dig it up.
No.
I just assume they just close it or
Nope.
pipe it off, and we
Nope.
would. At that point, I would assume the water only runs to the center. Would the taxpayers at that point have to pay for the extension into the city, or is it going to be connected?
That's a lot of ifs, but I think it's going to be. That's part of one of those scenarios that they've been putting in the contract.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. So then let's talk about. We talked about noise pollution. We talked
Water
about water,
pollution.
and then you had one more question as far as
Blackouts.
blackouts. So here's the issue. What's on the ballot is the fact that under the state constitution, if we have power districts
Mm-hmm.
and the power districts have priority, and you can't have a power district move into another power district and compete. It's set. So the reason why we're voting on the ballot.
So it's one data center per.
No. I'm talking power. So
Okay.
Stillwater provides our power.
Stillwater Electric Center
Yes,
over
Stillwater
by Boomer.
Electric provides our power. So no one else can come in. So OG&E can't come in
Unless
into our
we vote
area
for it.
unless we vote for it.
And
So it's not a vote of do we want OG&E or do we want Stillwater Electric? We are allowing OG&E to come in and power the data center. That's all we're voting on.
And to my understanding, OG&E would eventually profit for us. Like the city would profit more
Correct.
off of OG&E than it would with Stillwater.
So I don't think we will have rolling brownouts or blackouts because
I trust,
the power is separate.
I trust OG&E more with power than I do with Stillwater. I've heard Stillwater has issues with their electric, I've heard a few, just a few rumblings about Stillwater Electric charging people too much for their electricity or just like cutting power off here and there around the city.
Well, I think all power entities have issues because OG&E
No, I totally
upped their
agree.
rates when we had the Winter Storm Uri.
Correct,
So,
but I do believe OG&E has probably a better grid than what Stillwater Electric does.
well, all I know is that OG&E has worked with other data centers, and so they have experience and an understanding with what is needed, and so
Plus, OG&E isn't plugging into the city; they're plugging
Correct.
into only the factory.
correct.
I'm voting yes on OG&E, to be honest.
Well,
because
I am too.
it would make millions for the city,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Plus, we don't have to worry about rolling blackouts. That's my concern. If Stillwater, now the mayor says that Stillwater Electric does have the bandwidth or
Yes.
whether the amperage or wattage. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I don't. I like you said. Every electric company has their issues, and I get OG&E probably has their issue. Did have their issues during the freeze and storms and everything, but also OG&E is a bigger company. They're going to be individual towards this factory or
Correct.
this area, where Stillwater Electric is now going to have to funnel. I think there'd be blackouts if Stillwater Electric did it, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. Also, I mean,
I've not ever had any problems with Stillwater Electric, and I like the fact that it's Stillwater Electric.
I'm not
I
trying
have
to
the
talk-
office downtown. I
I'm
can
not-
go down there if
yeah.
I have a problem. I mean, I like that.
I'm not trying to talk smack on Stillwater Electric. I've noticed issues on the community page, and I mean, even here.
Oh gosh,
at
don't
home.
read the community page.
Community page is wild.
It's awful.
It's wild. The old one, but the new one is better. I like the new one that was started by what's his name? I'm getting messed up. Kyle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Kyle started a new one. Kyle Gooden.
Mm-hmm. I
Shout out to you, Kyle.
there you go. I'm not on it. I just
Really, you're not
No.
on any of them?
no.
Good for you. You shouldn't be on any of them. I'm like.
I would rather talk to people face to face, not just hear all of the other things.
Did you hear
online.
that, Molly Jenkins? Shout out to you. It's amazing. Like out of politicians, Democrats are more willing to talk in Oklahoma wise than most Republicans. I've invited quite a few Republicans onto my podcast
because they don't feel like they have to.
Your opponent.
Honest.
Your opponent.
Yeah.
I what's his name? Brian.
Andrew Muchmore.
Yeah, I was way off. Andrew.
Yes.
Ryan was last time, I think.
Gosh.
Mathia.
What was my last opponent?
He was a young gentleman. I think he was.
Yes.
I think it is.
I've slept since then.
I interviewed him on the front porch. I think
okay.
a few weeks after I did yours.
Oh,
I want to
fabulous.
get both points of view,
Right.
obviously. So he was one of the Republicans that did it. Obviously, John always was willing to do it. He's a great guy. But not Molly.
No.
I want to hear from her, and it's kind of interesting. She's like, I want to hear the voice of everyone in my district.
Yeah.
But
I mean, she won in June, so now, I mean, she's not sworn in, so she's not official.
I told you I'd even talk about this when you come on the podcast because I was concerned about it. So John's still there, technically.
Oh, yeah.
For now. Okay.
He is the representative until swearing in, which is November 20th. And so she's not sworn in, so she's not necessarily the rep yet, but this is a great time to start establishing relationships with the people in the community
since she got elected.
And I know, and it's just it's really interesting because I'm thinking, wow, I would totally use that time if it were me.
Right.
But she's not me, so that's okay.
I mean, I've sent her multiple messages. I've tried to communicate. Nothing.
Well, I hope that changes after November 20th because I think the people of House District 33 require representation.
John was very open.
Absolutely.
He kept his door literally open is what he told me. It was literally open to anyone if they were down in Oklahoma City. Right. If you had his phone number.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't even get I can't get Molly's phone number because generally first I would hit you up on Facebook or whatever. Right. Then we'd become
You should be able
friendly.
to find it on the Ethics Commission website.
That too, but
yes.
I guess I was looking for personal numbers with John at least,
sure.
and with you as well. So, but yes, yeah, you can find government numbers. Yeah, and John would always answer, but like there's I don't know. I'm getting frustrated with her, and she's not even my representative. You're my representative. I live in the city of Stillwater, and I'm gonna come out
it's the greatest place
and
to
say
live.
it. I'm a Republican. I am a registered Republican, and I can still sit down with a Democrat,
absolutely,
such as yourself. I feel like it's
you have to know. I have work with mostly Republicans.
I know, yeah. But I feel like it's very rare in the time that we are living that Republicans and Democrats can even sit down. Like I see a lot. If we you and I could probably disagree on something, and we're not going to scream.
No,
we're not going to yell. You're not going to mess.
What's the
You're
point?
not going to just charge out, throw my camera on the ground, and But have you seen these TikToks or at least videos of Democrats, Republicans all having their freak out moments, all just being little prissy little B words?
Yeah. Yes. No, it doesn't help. And what ends up doing it only hurts because then if you try to have a conversation later, you still remember that.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, I know who you really are, and you're not someone who's going to be able to have a conversation with me. And in the job that I do, I absolutely have to have conversations with people. And so it's not worth freaking out. Now, can I disagree respectfully? Absolutely. If someone says something that is not truthful, then I will say that's not truthful. And it's more this. I mean, that's how we do things.
Right.
And I mean, having a one-on-one conversation means that we come to a better understanding of each other and what our shared values are. And that's really, really important.
Last time I talked to you, I believe OU and Texas had already announced they were leaving the Big 12.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And I believe you were talking about Republicans trying to block OU from profiting.
My gosh, that was a flashback right there.
From trying to profit with the SEC, while the Republican Party is more of a capitalist,
I know,
go get your own money type of.
But party. I mean, looking back now, it's like they were hurt. They were heartbroken. Where did that end up? OU's gonna make their money, right? Yeah, they're gonna make their money. It's all fine. Yeah.
There's no way they're not gonna make their money with the SEC.
Right.
Do you think OSU will go to the SEC eventually?
I have no idea. I'm not a sports person. It's a business decision, and I think we'll see how it is without OU in the conference for a while, and then I don't know.
I didn't know how.
That's against. Not my pay grade.
I don't know how much Congress has with athletics. Like, obviously, I guess they thought they could block OU from getting SEC money.
But here's
Doesn't make
back
any
to what we
sense.
were talking before. We don't subsidize higher ed like we used to, and so therefore we really don't have much say.
So you only put in about 20% when you back. How long ago did the state put in 80%?
That was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot has changed. Wow. And it's the whole privatization, which bothers me too, because, you know, when we come to research, we've got so much private entity dollars going into our research. It's like, okay, well, is this really standalone education and research, or is this research and development for the companies?
Where did the 60% go? You're talking about it went to companies instead of going to education?
Oh, no. Instead of going to it was cuts in taxes. So then we didn't put as much money into it, so then they didn't have to pay as much. And so then what ends up happening is the people who do go to college have to foot the bill where the state would have. Where
it's like $68,000 to go.
And so now you've got all of this high student debt.
And there's no such thing as...
We created it. Quite honestly.
You can't bankrupt or file for bankruptcy on. That's the only thing you can't file for bankruptcy on.
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But at the same time, isn't filing for bankruptcy the federal government's forgiving your debt, basically? Isn't that what that is? And then you have 7 years.
No.
They do a dock point.
It's a very different system. And I mean, because a lot of the debt that has been forgiven.
See, this is what we need to learn in school.
Yes.
I didn't learn this.
The debt that's forgiven is not necessarily the debt like what you had to pay for your college education. It's the mountain of interest.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just like I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she had her college debt forgiven. She is 15 to 20 years out of college. She was still paying debt. She got it forgiven, and because she had that debt forgiven, she actually had money to actually open her own business.
Good deal.
So, you know, when you talk about that, it's like, oh my gosh, what a great asset for her to be able, and it was a childcare. And I'm like, yes, exactly, you know, and so she's gone into childcare now, and she's having a really hard time making ends meet just now. Imagine if she had debt, there would have been no way that she would have opened that childcare.
You just mentioned your son graduated 2 years ago.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, how is he doing with this debt? Does he have debt, or was he on scholarship?
He had a lot of scholarship.
Okay.
He was an engineering student, so
that's a long time.
Yes. Well, it was 4 years, but he
congratulations.
Thank you. He has limited debt, which is good, and he now works for Paycom, and so he gets a good paying job.
He's a smart engineer, but he's not like the smart engineers that go to school for like 10 plus years.
No.
Okay.
He did 4 years, and then he needed a break.
Not
you know what I mean?
Not downgrading his degree or anything. My bad. When you said engineer, I'm thinking of the guys that make Toyota and then put the oil filter behind the muffler to make it difficult for every person to work on their car. Those kind of people think they're geniuses, but really they're not geniuses, but they still get paid 6 figures a year just to screw with technicians. I thought that was your son.
No. He's a good guy. He learned well, but he was electrical engineering, and there's a lot of mathematical
he's
theory.
Doing technician with the
but he's doing
Paycom.
tech support. I mean, it's like low stress, and he is it's a good job. So
see, I was thinking about doing production work. Like you see everything in here. I mean,
yeah.
I think I'm halfway there already.
Well, you know, I mean, because you have to. I mean, it's like, how do I make this work? What do I mean,
right.
Like I said before, when we came in here initially, I mean, you've advanced greatly since the last time that we sat down and talked.
I don't have video of us last time.
No,
you know,
this
it's
is
all
pretty
audio.
awesome.
So yeah, definitely.
Good for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's do one more question before you have a hard out. All right. Let's do voter issues.
Voter issues.
What are some of the key issues or policies you think will define this election for voters in District 34?
Okay, say that again. What are the issues that are defining?
Some of the key issues or policies you think will define this election? for district?
Well, number one, the national election, who is president and vice president. I think that's the number one thing, the top of the ticket. The next thing is Ryan Walters, quite honestly. Ryan Walters is our state
Is he up for re-election?
He's not. It's a 4-year term, so he's 2 years in. And what's frustrating is that he is the number one topic on the doors.
That's what I've been seeing.
And so regardless of party, everyone that I talk to, the number one issue that they have is Ryan Walters and Bibles in the classroom. And so that is affecting how they vote. And so they are looking at, okay, who is going to be someone who pushes back against that? Who's going to make sure that he is held accountable for his actions and inactions? I've been on the record for multiple years now of, this is not how you run the State Department of Ed. We are vilifying our teachers. We are having poor results as far as educational outcomes for our students. Our schools are not healthy learning environments under his leadership.
So you would be against Molly Jenkins when she says that, sorry, where she's like, we should abolish the teachers union and
we don't have
over.
A teachers union, number
or
one.
Not teach.
That's what I'm sure she said it.
She said we should abolish, or not abolish, but restart the board of
the National Department of Ed?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
That's something education.
We need to have
I thought it was a teachers union.
Well,
but okay.
There's that too. But
we
need a standardized
We have a national
group.
teachers union, don't we?
The NEA, and it's a National Education Association.
Weren't you a member of that?
I was a member of the OEA, the Oklahoma Education Association, yes.
So is that a union?
We are a non-union state. So
right.
It is an association.
Okay.
So
we talked about this last time, I'm sure. But
so they cannot force me to do anything. I pay dues, or I paid dues, excuse me, because I'm no longer a member of OEA.
You're a retired teacher, school teacher, aren't you? Or
not
are
retired.
You still?
No.
So how do you not pay any dues if you're still?
Because I'm not in the classroom. You have to be an active teacher to be a
so it's
union
kind of
member.
like
Correct.
a licensing. Okay,
yes.
got you.
Licensing is different, but you have to be in the classroom in order to be a member. And so I paid my dues, and it was actually really great support because it was other teachers. If I ever had an issue with my principal, I knew that I had support. If I ever had an issue with parents, I knew I had support. With my principal, with my association. And it's one of those things that, when you're a classroom teacher, you're basically an independent contractor.
Yep.
But you work for a district, but you are also a state employee, but you don't get paid by the state. You get paid by your district. It's convoluted.
I didn't know that. Okay.
It is. But to have that association around you with other teachers that walk the walk and talk the talk, oh my gosh, it is so vital. Okay. And so the fact that, there's this rhetoric of let's abolish that. Well, what you really want to do is you want to take power away from teachers.
Well, I would
that
like
way
to
you
do
can pay
is,
them what you want to pay them, which is not a living wage.
What I would like to do is redo the system, but for the better of the teachers and students. I feel like both are not getting what they both
Correct.
Deserve.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm all for reset with the teacher union, not union, association. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my bad. My bad. But the association, I am all for resetting. I'm not all for abolishing. Molly. I'm going to be salty. I'm sorry. And it's not me being becoming a Democrat. Yeah, just a little bit there with Molly. But I don't like Molly. I'm going to be honest. I was a Tally fan. And Tally came on my podcast, explained everything that Molly was bleeding over and lying about. And I mean, I'm
hard because Tally is an amazing human being.
I've known him all my life, so yes. I'm kind of biased on it, and maybe that's why she won't even communicate with me. But I want her to have the chance. Like I've given your opponent for this election I've hit him up with the same messages I hit everyone up, and he has not gotten back to me. No. Like you said, Republicans always think, I tried to do our mayor, Will Joyce, but like. Mm-hmm. I believe he's a Republican or
he's an independent.
Is he really? Mm-hmm. Still didn't want to talk to me. I feel like I mean, if anything, I say I'm a Republican, but more than anything, I'm a constitutionalist. What's in our Constitution, I wholeheartedly believe, but also I do believe that our founding fathers, and I think I even mentioned this last time, made the Constitution for us to add. We only have 27
It is a
amendments.
living
You know what I mean?
document, so it must adapt.
And I think I explained this last time. Like, if you want certain abortion laws or certain things about, which I'm getting touchy, I know, you know, but we should amend a make a constitution. What are they called? Amendments. We should, and I know you need two-thirds of the House, 2/3 of the Senate to even have it pass. But let's get our shit together, guys. Yeah. Like, seriously, if you
but we're too busy fighting one another rather than working to find out.
My thing is, I am for women's health. I do believe in like the women's health medical thing, but also with the whole abortion thing, I think it should come down to the health of a woman, rape, incest is my opinion. I that's my opinion because I think it takes two people to make a baby. I don't think you should just throw away.
Let's talk about that second person it takes to make a baby. Are there any implications? Are there any things that affect his life?
Absolutely. He's going to have to pay for that child. I have my own child.
Yes.
He's going to have that. I'm going to have to pay for him all my life. I mean, his mother and I are together.
But not in the law. In the law, it's all the limitations for her rights. His rights are not affected.
Well, he's going to have to pay regardless all year.
But not in the
until
law.
He's 18.
That's
law.
But, I mean, there's all
Is that not
kinds
law?
of ways.
That child support is not law?
Well, the child support is law, but as far as I'm talking about what you can do with your body, there is nothing. So I would have issue in the sense that, okay, why are we making it to where we are micromanaging half of the population? How about we focus on the education, focus on public health, focus on trusting women to make decisions for themselves? And then we most likely won't have the problems if we educate on the front end and we talk about prevention rather than, oh, well, sorry, it's too bad, so sad. I mean, it's, I
don't know. That's going to be always a tricky conversation.
It is. It is a tricky conversation.
Sure.
But, as a woman, to the sense that I have less rights in some states than others, then that's a frustration. The fact that my daughter will not return to the state of Oklahoma, that is a problem. And I think that is bleeds into the child care issue where we have families who the mother is staying at home and not in the workforce, which is going to hurt her later as far as Social Security and wage earning.
You do have to understand why the Supreme Court did overrule Roe versus Wade. Now, because it's not constitutional. If you read the Constitution, there's nothing about abortion in the Constitution. Before, hold on, I know I see your gears working. I understand our founding fathers didn't necessarily know about the process. I mean, it did happen. Don't get me wrong, but everything I've read is brutal. Back in the 1700s, the woman probably didn't survive most of the time. But I get, but they didn't put it in there. My point of view is, if you want it, amend it, put it in the Constitution, then you can do that. That's why I agree with the Supreme Court's ruling of Roe versus Wade, because it wasn't constitutional. If you want something to be in writing, like Roe versus Wade, if you want to try bring back Roe versus Wade, then amend it into the Constitution. That's the only way you're going to
that's your opinion. That's valid, and that's fine. I mean, I
think that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Because, I mean, I don't think Roe versus Wade was... No, it's not. I don't think. I know 100% Roe versus Wade was not constitutional.
Well, going forward, I think as far as a Republican supermajority of this state, yes, that's the only way. Either that or a ballot initiative at the state level.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. See, guys, we just had a very touchy subject, very touchy conversation. She's not throwing my camera everywhere. She's not flipping my laptop. I'm not flipping out on her. We're having a normal conversation. I am a little shaky because I am very I am very passionate
about things like this.
I'm very passionate as well.
Yes, but then you have to practice. We have to practice it. So it's all good.
So if you guys do see me shaking, it's not me getting mad. It's just like I am kind of nervous when I do talk about these subjects as well. Because you don't know how the other person is going to respond, especially in today's atmosphere. Like I mentioned, everyone's flipping out about just simple conversations like what we had.
And I respect, too, the fact that
that wasn't a simple conversation that we had, but
you were thinking about how your words were going to land with me.
Yes.
I think we need, as a human community, need to do more of that.
Respect each other.
to think about how my words affect you,
Yep.
and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we're saying going to advance the conversation, or is it going to end the conversation?
Correct.
And we need to advance conversation rather than end it.
But sadly, I think this is going to end the conversation.
Yes, I know. I do have to go. So
thank you, Trish, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
Guys, where can we find you?
So ransonhouse34.com is my website. I live in Stillwater, but online I live on Instagram, Facebook.
You're on TikTok now.
X and TikTok. I am.
I see your TikToks.
Yes.
I pay attention.
Good. So yeah, you can find me, and it's Ranson House 34 on everything. So I try to keep it as simple as possible.
This is my last question, and it's probably a yes or no. Is it only federal that can't be on TikTok? Federal government workers that can't be on?
As a candidate, I can be on.
So, but once you're...
But as my TikTok is me.
Okay.
But as a candidate and a campaign, but if it's not from the state of Oklahoma, because the state of Oklahoma doesn't pay for my TikTok. It doesn't pay for any of my social media.
I got that,
yes,
but I was just curious because of the whole cell phone kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe our federal, if you have a federal phone, even maybe state phone, you can't use TikTok.
It's
because
all my personal.
Got you. All right. All right, guys. Go check her out. Go vote for her.
Yes. Vote Ranson.
All right. Peace, guys.
All right. Sorry, hon.
No, you're perfectly fine. I was trying to get you out as fast as possible, too, because I know... Hello, Mark Trotter. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the HeleyCast. What's up, Heley Freeman?
What's going on, man? How we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hello, Marty.
Oh, hey, buddy.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Next, how are you doing? What's your real name? What's your government name? That is my first question. I'm just going to go right off the bat and go. JJ Wood.
What's up? Long-time listener, first-time guest. Really excited to be here.
You all have headphones now? You get
I got
Heley, what year were you born? 97, 96?
95.
See, all right. Technically, you're a 90s baby, but you missed half of it.